In the shadow of a mountain that had long slumbered under the warm Mediterranean sun, the prosperous Roman city of Pompeii thrived, with an unshakable confidence in its eternal stability. The year was 79 AD, and the Bay of Naples shimmered like a jewel in the empire's crown. Citizens went about their lives amid bustling forums, lavish villas adorned with intricate frescoes, and streets alive with the clamor of merchants hawking olives, fish, and fine wines. Yet beneath this veneer of normalcy lay forces that no one truly understood. The ground had trembled before, but these were dismissed as the ordinary quakes of Campania, nothing more than the earth's restless sigh. No one imagined that the very mountain looming over their world, Vesuvius, crowned with vineyards and forests, concealed a fury capable of erasing an entire way of life. As the sun rose on what seemed like just another day of Roman splendor, the seeds of catastrophe had already been sown in the soil of complacency, and the collapse did not begin with chaos. It began quietly, in the denial that anything could shatter the illusion of permanence. The daily rhythm of Pompeii pulsed with the vibrant energy of a thriving Roman outpost. Bakers fired their ovens early, filling the air with the scent of fresh bread, while children played in the shadows of grand temples dedicated to Jupiter and Apollo. Wealthy patricians lounged in their atriums, discussing politics and philosophy, surrounded by mosaics depicting gods and heroes. Fishermen returned from the bay with nets heavy with catch, and gladiatorial games echoed with the roar of crowds in the amphitheater. Life felt secure under the Pax Romana, protected by legions far away and the gods above. The mountain stood silent sentinel, its slopes fertile and inviting, cultivated for generations. People repaired homes after minor tremors with the casual efficiency of routine maintenance, never pausing to question why the earth stirred so frequently. This was their world, ordered and eternal, where fortune favored the bold and the vigilant. Yet invisible cracks were forming in the foundations of this society, warnings whispered by nature that went unheard amid the laughter and commerce of everyday existence. Early invisible warning signs flickered like distant lightning on the horizon, subtle enough to ignore, but ominous in hindsight. For years, the region had experienced seismic activity, tremors that rattled cups and loosened tiles, but never escalated into panic. Residents attributed them to the whims of the gods, or the natural temperament of the Italian peninsula, repairing damage and moving on without deeper inquiry. Springs ran dry or turned sulfurous in strange patterns, and wells whispered of underground shifts, but these anomalies were explained away as seasonal peculiarities. Farmers noted subtle changes in the soil, yet the vines still produced abundant grapes, and the olive groves remained lush. No one connected these threads to the mountain itself, for Vesuvius was not even recognized as a volcano in the modern sense. It was simply part of the landscape, a provider rather than a threat. The collective mindset embraced denial as a shield, a comforting belief that the empire's stability extended even to the forces of nature. But no one understood what was coming next, how these faint signals heralded a rupture that would expose the fragility of human hubris. As tension rose imperceptibly, the social fabric of Pompeii began to show strains beneath its polished surface. Political intrigues in Rome filtered down to local governance, with elites more concerned with status and spectacles than with subtle environmental cues. Merchants continued trade routes across the empire, importing luxuries that masked any sense of vulnerability. Families gathered for meals under frescoed ceilings, sharing stories of conquest and prosperity, while the mountain's occasional rumbles were met with toasts to Fortuna. Invisible pressures mounted. Over-reliance on the fertile volcanic soil that had made the region wealthy blinded inhabitants to its volatile origins. Key decisions, or rather the absence of them, reflected a profound institutional inertia. No evacuation plans, no public discourse on the tremor's implications, only the continuation of festivals and building projects, as if tomorrow were guaranteed. The system held because denial reinforced it, turning potential alarm into normalized routine. Yet the instability was rising, like pressure building in a sealed vessel, and the choices to ignore the gathering signs would prove fateful. The moment the system began to fail arrived not with a cataclysmic bang, but with a deceptive calm on the morning of August 24th. A series of stronger tremors shook the city, toppling statues and cracking walls, yet many chose to stay. Pliny, the elder, the renowned admiral and naturalist, even set sail toward the mountain out of scientific curiosity rather than fear, embodying the Roman spirit of inquiry mixed with underestimation. As the day progressed, a plume of smoke rose from Vesuvius, described later as a pine tree shape against the sky, sparking curiosity more than terror in those who witnessed it from across the bay. Citizens covered their heads with pillows against falling stones, continuing daily tasks in a haze of disbelief. The denial that had sustained their society now paralyzed decisive action, as people debated whether to flee or wait it out. By the time the signs became unmistakable, the darkening sky, the rain of pumice and ash, the window for escape had narrowed dramatically for many. The collapse unfolded as a process, hour by hour, burying streets and lives under accumulating layers of volcanic debris. Human consequences unfolded with harrowing immediacy. As the eruption intensified, pyroclastic surges raced down the slopes, searing the air and engulfing those who remained. Families huddled in cellars or temples, their final moments marked by the roar of collapsing roofs and the suffocating darkness. Some attempted desperate flights toward the sea, only to be overtaken by flows of superheated gas and ash. The silence that followed was profound, a void where vibrant life had pulsed just hours earlier. Bodies were preserved in the ash, frozen in poses of protection or flight, poignant testaments to the cost of collective denial. Social breakdown was total. The bonds of community, class, and faith dissolved in the face of raw survival. Herculaneum, the sister city, faced even swifter destruction, its inhabitants caught mid-stride. The disaster did not discriminate by wealth or status. It exposed the shared vulnerability that denial had obscured. In the aftermath, survivors grappled with loss amid a landscape transformed, where once familiar streets lay entombed beneath meters of material. The long-term historical impact of this rupture resonated far beyond the Bay of Naples, serving as a stark reminder of civilization's precariousness. Pompeii and its sister settlements vanished from the living world, preserved like a time capsule until rediscovery centuries later. The event influenced Roman consciousness, appearing in writings by Pliny the Younger, whose accounts provided vivid windows into the human experience of disaster. It underscored how even the mightiest empire, with its engineering prowess and administrative reach, could be humbled by nature's indifference when met with denial. Broader lessons echoed through history. Societies that dismiss warning signs, whether seismic, environmental, or social, court irreversible change. The buried cities became symbols of hubris, their excavation in later eras revealing not just artifacts, but insights into daily Roman life, from bakeries to brothels. This moment of collapse reshaped understandings of resilience, highlighting how preparation and acknowledgement of threats could mean the difference between endurance and erasure. Yet the story of Pompeii is but one chapter in humanity's recurring dance with denial in the face of looming disaster. Across eras and continents, patterns repeat with haunting similarity. Consider distant islands where thriving cultures confronted their own environmental limits, ignoring the slow unraveling of resources that sustain them. Palm forests, felled for monumental projects in agriculture, altered the landscape irreversibly, yet leaders and people pressed forward, convinced of abundance's permanence. Daily life revolved around intricate rituals and statue carvings that celebrated ancestral prowess, masking the quiet erosion of soil and biodiversity. Early signs diminishing fish stocks, scarcer timber, were rationalized as temporary cycles, not harbingers of systemic failure. Rising tension manifested in resource competition and social stratification, with key decisions favoring short-term gains over sustainable adaptation. The system faltered as ecosystems collapsed under cumulative pressures, leading to food shortages and conflict that fractured communal bonds. In these isolated worlds, the human consequences mirrored Pompeii's tragedy on a slower, more agonizing scale. Populations faced starvation and upheaval, with traditional authority structures crumbling as survival instincts overrode cooperation. Social breakdown brought warfare over dwindling resources, toppling the very monuments, once symbols of unity. Long-term, such societies entered periods of profound transformation, their stories later romanticized or mythologized as cautionary tales of overreach. The reflective weight of these events lies in their universality. Denial thrives in times of apparent prosperity, blinding even the most ingenious peoples to the accumulating evidence of rupture. Historians debate the precise triggers and extents, yet the core truth endures, that ignoring the interconnectedness of human activity and the natural world invites collapse. These ruptures did not merely end eras, they reshaped migration patterns, cultural memory, and the very trajectory of human adaptation. The silence after disaster often carries the loudest lessons. In Pompeii's case, the ash preserved not only bodies, but the mundane details of a world interrupted. Half-eaten meals, unfinished chores, pets chained in vain. This frozen tableau invites us to peer into the psychology of denial, where the familiar routines of life anchor people against the unknown. Similar patterns emerge in other historical breakdowns, from imperial declines where external threats were downplayed to environmental tipping points dismissed as alarmism. The process of collapse rarely announces itself with fanfare. It creeps through ignored data, bureaucratic inertia, and cultural optimism that borders on delusion. By the time urgency strikes, the momentum of failure proves difficult to reverse. Sensory echoes remain: the acrid smell of sulfur, the muffled cries under falling debris, the eerie quiet of abandoned streets, reminding that history's victims experienced these moments as immediate and personal. As centuries passed, the rediscovery of these lost worlds fueled both fascination and introspection. Excavations revealed the hubris of assuming mastery over nature, influencing everything from urban planning to philosophical reflections on mortality. The Roman elite's failure to heed the mountain's murmurs paralleled later societies' blindness to their own vulnerabilities, whether in the form of pandemics, economic bubbles, or ecological strain. Denial, it seems, is woven into the human condition, a survival mechanism that allows daily function but risks catastrophic oversight. The long arc of impact stretches into modernity, where echoes of Pompeii resonate in debates over preparedness for inevitable threats. What was lost was not just lives and structures, but an opportunity to evolve wiser systems of vigilance. In the reflective light of hindsight, these episodes of denial stand as haunting mirrors to our own age. The people of Pompeii walk streets we can now trace, their voices silenced, but their story enduring as a testament to the perils of complacency. They laughed, loved, and built under a mountain that would betray their trust, much as other civilizations have done before and since. The collapse reshaped regional power dynamics, altered trade, and left indelible marks on collective memory. Yet beyond the facts lies a deeper resonance, the quiet before the storm, the normalcy that precedes rupture, and the human capacity to look away until it is too late. Nature operates on timescales indifferent to human schedules, and civilizations endure only by confronting realities they would rather deny. The final images linger like ghosts in the ruins, plaster casts of figures curled in eternal embrace, streets buried under layers that time slowly peeled back. This was no singular cataclysm born of malice, but the culmination of overlooked processes, decisions deferred, and signs unheeded. Across the sweep of history, from volcanic plains to remote archipelagos, the theme repeats. Prosperity breeds assurance, assurance fosters denial, and denial paves the path to irreversible change. The survivors, scattered and traumatized, carried forward fragments of their world, rebuilding elsewhere with hard-won caution that often faded with new generations. What remains is a profound cautionary atmosphere, one that transcends any single event. The mountain still looms today, its slopes dotted with modern towns whose residents, like their ancient predecessors, navigate the tension between daily life and latent danger. Tremors continue, yet the pull of routine persists. In this continuity lies both tragedy and hope, the recognition that while denial is instinctive, awareness is a choice. History's collapses teach that true resilience demands facing the uncomfortable truths of our environments and societies before the ground shifts beneath us. The echoes of these fallen worlds call across time, urging a vigilance that honors the dead by protecting the living. In the end, the story of denial in the face of disaster is not merely about what was lost, but about the enduring human struggle to balance ambition with humility before forces greater than ourselves. As the ash settled on Pompeii and similar ruins elsewhere, it buried not just a city, but illusions of invulnerability. leaving behind a legacy that continues to shape how we confront an uncertain future. The process reminds us that every era of apparent stability holds the potential for sudden rupture, and only by listening closely to the warnings, however faint, can we hope to avert the next inevitable chapter of collapse.